Hello and welcome to the third lesson of this Excel course. I am Sumit Bansal and in this video we will learn about data formatting tools in Excel. Let's start by looking at various ways you can access formatting tools in Excel. Here I have some raw data in Excel. If you look closely, you would find that I have month's name in column A, I have the year in row 2, and I have these values here, the sales values, and at the bottom I have the total sales value. Now, if you get such kind of data, it is really difficult to read this data because there is no formatting. Now, let me show you a formatted data set. This is really easy to read. There are borders, there are titles that are in bold in a different color, the total sales value is in a different color, it's bold, and I also have the minimum sales value in red so that you can easily identify that in 2011 it was July where the company made minimum sales as compared to 2012 when the minimum sales was in June. So this is the power of data formatting. I've taken hardly a couple of seconds or maybe a minute to do this, but this increases the readability significantly. Now coming back to the raw data set, in this video I will show you how to access various data formatting tools that are available in Excel and how we can polish this data set to look like this. Now there are three ways you can access data formatting tools. The first one is in the Home tab. You have all these tools available, which is the font category, alignment category, and the style category. Let me talk about the font group. In this group you have the font property, so you can change what kind of font you want for your text. As you can see, as I make these changes, for example, if I select this data set and if I make these changes, you can see that my data set changes. You can change the font size. You also have these two icons where you can increase the font size or decrease the font size. You can bold your font, your text, you can italics it, you can underline it, or you can double underline it. There is this icon where you can apply borders to the data. If you are not satisfied with the existing options, you can also draw borders. You also have the flexibility to choose the color or the border grid or the kind of line style you want in the borders. You can also fill cells using these colors. As you can see, as I'm hovering my mouse over these colors, you can see that the color is changing. And you can also change the font color. So this is where I've used red color to highlight the lowest value. Next to font group, we have the alignment group where you can decide how do you want your text to be aligned. So it could be top aligned, middle aligned, bottom aligned, and how you want it to be aligned within the cell. So it could be left aligned, center aligned, or right aligned. You can also decide if you want to decrease or increase the indent. So for example, if I have this value, if I have the name from Excel here, I can give it an indentation so that it goes to the right, and I can also decrease the indentation. You can also decide whether you want to give an orientation to your text. So in this case, for example, let me choose angle counterclockwise, and as soon as I do this, you can see that I have Trump Excel at 45 degrees, and also the row height gets adjusted based on the text in the cell. So let me Control Z and go back. You also have the option to wrap text. In case you think that the text is going outside the cell, then you can use this option and it would wrap this text within that single cell, but of course it would change the row height. Let me Control Z and go back. And then there is an option to merge and center. What this does is, and you can see there is a very nice picture to explain what this does. What this does is, if I select these three cells and I choose merge and center, then this would merge all these three cells and center align the text. You also have more options here where you can merge across, you can merge cells, and you can unmerge cells. Let me unmerge cells to go back to the original situation. I also have the number formatting here, which I've already talked about in one of the previous course videos. And as I mentioned, I would create single video on custom number formatting, which is because this is vast in Excel and this would take a lot of time. Now let me tell you the other way to access these tools. So the first way is to use Home tab. Another way is to just go to the cell and right click, and as soon as you right click, you would see that there is a mini toolbar here. This is very similar to what you see in the Home tab, but this has lesser number of options. So for example, I have here the option to change the font, to change the font size. I have these increase and decrease font size icons. I have this icon to change the custom number format, the number format. So if I use this, then I can choose the currency, and I then can choose more accounting formats to open the format cells dialog box. I have the option to change the numbers into percentage format. I can introduce comma, I can merge and center. There is an option to bold, italicize, center align, fill color, and font color. So there are a lot of options here available in mini toolbar. As soon as you right click on any of the cells, you would always have this appear. There is no way you can make this go away. But if you do not use any of these options and hover around this, or maybe use any of this option, then you would only have the mini toolbar appear, and the other menu would go away. So this is a quick way to change the formatting of any of the existing cell or the selection. So for example, you can just right click, select a range of cells, right click, and maybe fill this with a different color. Let me Control Z to go back. The third way to access formatting options is using the format cells dialog box. Now there are 2 or 3 ways you can open the format cells dialog box. The first way is, and the simplest way, is using the keyboard shortcut Control 1. So as soon as I hit Control 1, this opens the format cells dialog box, and it has all the options available for formatting. So here I have the alignment tab, font tab, border tab, fill tab, and protection, which I would talk about this later in one of the video courses. So you can use Control 1 keyboard shortcut. You can also use the dialog box launcher. So for example, every of these groups has this small tilted arrow, and if you click on this arrow, it would open the format cells dialog box, and that group would be selected. So for example, if I click here, then I have the font group open, and this is I can access all the font options here from format cells dialog box. So these are 3 ways you can access format cells dialog box. Now let's look at these formatting tools individually. Now to talk about each of these formatting tools individually, I would use the format cells dialog box, and as I mentioned, the easiest way to open this dialog box is Control 1. Control 1, and as soon as I Control 1, I have this format cells dialog box open with all these tabs. I would start with the alignment tab. In alignment, you have these drop downs. So for example, you can decide how you want to align the horizontal text in Excel. So in this case, the first option you have is general, which is numbers get aligned to right, text get aligned to left, and any error value or logical value gets aligned to the middle. If you want, you can left indent your text. So for example, let me show you this by increasing the width of this column. Now I have Trump Excel here. I hit Control 1 to open the format cells dialog box, and here I select left indent. Since it's left indented, it was already left indented because it is a text. If I choose center and click OK, then this center lines the text. I again open this with using Control 1. If I right indent, then this would align here. If I fill, then this would fill this cell with Trump Excel till the time the entire cell is filled. So let me show you how this works. I select fill and I click OK, and it fills Trump Excel till this row is filled. If I drag this further, it would again fill this, but I do not want this, and to be honest, I'm really not sure why this option exists. I press Control 1 again to open format cells dialog box. Then you have this option to justify, center across selection, and distributed. Now I want to talk about this option, center across selection. This is a really important option, and what this does is, if you select more than one cell and go to center across selection, then it would align this text at the center of these 3 cells. So for example, if I click OK, you can see that it has aligned the text to these 3 cells. This is equivalent to merge and center, except for the fact that this is actually not merging these 3 cells. All these 3 cells are separate. Only you see them as one. So this is a really important option. I would come back to this again later in this video. Let me Control Z and go back. Hit Control 1 again. And then you have this option to distributed indent. In vertical, you have the option to top align the text, center align it, or bottom align it, and you can justify distributed option. You can also choose from here, but I'm not sure any case where you would need justify or distributed, but it's good to know. You also have this option to wrap text. You also have this icon here, but you also get this control here in text control. So you can wrap text, you can shrink to fit. In case of shrink to fit, if your row or if your cell has a lot of text, then that entire text gets fitted into that cell and the size is reduced. So for example, let me show you how it works. I am reducing the size of this column, and now I have this text Trump Excel, which is going to the left of this cell and to the right of this cell. Now I again go to alignment tab and I click shrink to fit, and as soon as I click OK, you can see that it has reduced the size of the text. So in case you want to shrink to fit, then beware that this would reduce the size of your text, and then you can merge cells as we saw here. You can also decide the text direction, but to be honest, I have not seen any use of this. It is a very language specific thing where there are certain languages which are read from left to right instead of right to left. You also have the orientation option here where you can decide the level of orientation. So either you can drag this line, so you can see there is a red dot here. You can either move this and click OK, and this would change the orientation, or you can manually feed in the values. Let me click Ctrl Z and go back to the original position. Now I'll talk about the font options in data formatting. Here you get a lot of access to all these options, so you can select the font that you want. There is this entire range of fonts. You can select the style, regular, italics, bold or bold italics. You can select the size, again something that you can also select from home tab, and you can select whether you want to underline. It could be single underline, double underline, or single or double accounting. You also have the flexibility to choose the font color, which again is there something in home tab, and you also have these three options available which are not there in home tab. So you can use the strike through option, and as soon as you select any option, you have the preview window here, so you can see how it works. One of the drawbacks of format cells dialog box is that when you make a change, you cannot see the live preview here in the cell. So if you want to see how it would look, you would have to go and click OK, and only then you would see the change. So this is one of the drawbacks that are there in format cells dialog box, but nevertheless you have the preview to see how it works. You can change this to superscript, or you can make the subscript. Now let me talk about the border part. Here you have a lot of flexibility as compared to the options here in this border case. Let me first talk about how you can use the border property or the border options in the home tab. Here you have all these options: bottom border, top border, left border, right border, all border, which is very useful, thick border, and all these options. But in case you want to draw borders by yourself, then you can select this and you can drag this pen icon and it will draw the border for you. In this case, since I have not selected anything, it has drawn the border. But if I want to draw border grid as well, because this was just a border outline, if I want to draw border grid, then I can use this icon, and you can see that I have the interiors of that border is also filled. I can erase the border, and I can also choose the line color. So for example, if I choose this orange color and I use this, then I would also have the border filled here. If you want to access more border options, then you can click on this and it would again open the same format cells dialog box and border would be selected. Here the way to use this is if you have a cell selected. So for example, I have this cell selected, I can select the border that I want, and then I can choose this. For example, I choose a simple line, then I can choose whether I want border as none, I only want the outline border, or I want the inside border. The inside border option as now is not active because there is only one cell that has been selected. But in case I select more than one cell, so for example, let me select these range of cells, press Ctrl 1 to open format cells dialog box, and now you can see that this is now available. If I select this option and I say interiors, then you can see it says that the interiors are filled, and you have the preview window here. As mentioned, you would not see live preview in the cells unless you click OK. You can also select thick border, or you can select double border, or any kind of border that is visible here. A good part here is that you can also select these lines. So if I select this, you can see that I have a kind of design here which is a cross in these cells. So if I click OK, then you can see I have a cross in each of these cells. I'll hit Ctrl Z to go back and Ctrl 1 to open the format cells dialog box again. You also have the flexibility to choose the color from here, so you can select a color and you can then change this. So for example, if I select say orange color and I select double border and I click here, then a double border is introduced. And now if I click OK, only the bottom of the cell would have this border. So for example, if I click OK, you can see that only the bottom of the selection has this border now. So this is how you can use border options. Coming to fill options, you get a lot of flexibility in terms of these colors. So these are 10 colors which are already there in Excel, and you have a variation of these colors. But in case you want more colors, you can click on more colors option, and you would have this you would have access to this entire range of colors. You can also see the sample in this case. If you want, you can also choose fill effect, so you would have gradient within a cell. You can also select a pattern. So in this case, you can see that there are some patterns available. In this case, for example, if I select this thing and I select a color, say red, then this is the pattern that would fill this cell. If I click OK, you can see that I have this pattern here. So if you're feeling really fancy, you can use pattern option as well. So this is fill option in Excel. So now let me go back and clear all this formatting. As I mentioned in one of the previous videos, a very quick way to clear everything including content and formatting is to use clear all option here. So as soon as I hit clear all, you can see that everything gets cleared. One last feature that I want to talk about in this video before I move on to the data set and show you how to beautify this data is these cell styles option here. Cell styles feature is a good option if you just want to apply a formatting to a cell or to a range of cells with a single click of button. So Excel already have some pre-populated styles. It has normal, it has bad, which would fill the cell with the red color, and if you have something here, so for example, let me write Trump Excel here, and you can see that the color, the font color here is red, because that is what this formatting is all about. If you go to good, the color changes to green and the fill changes to green as well. And then you have neutral. Similarly, you have these various options here that you can select, and as you select these options, that would get implemented in this cell. If you want, you can create your own style. So if you click on new cell style, it opens this dialog box which says style 1. Let me say I want to create Trump Excel style here, and I want to specify the format that I want to use. So maybe I can specify a format. Maybe I want to use blue as the fill color, alignment maybe left in, or maybe just for a change right indented. I would use this border at the bottom, and I click OK. And now I have a cell style which says Trump Excel, and as soon as I select this style, that is implemented to this cell. You can see that the fill is blue, it is right indented with a double border at bottom. So you can create your own styles if you are feeling really if you feel the need to be really quick while formatting, and you can just select this entire data set and apply that formatting. Now let me clear this again by going to clear all. Now let me show you how to format this data set by using all the options that we just saw in this video. So the first step is to give a border to this data set. To do that, select this entire thing, go to Home tab, and here this is the icon for borders. If you do not have all borders selected already, click on the drop down and select all borders. As soon as you do this, this entire data set now has a border to it. The second thing is to give a different color to the headers. So I've selected these two rows because this contains all the headers for this data set, and I would go to fill, and here I would select the appropriate shade. In this case, I would select a lighter version of gray. I would also make it bold and italic so that these borders comes out distinctly in this data set. Another thing that I need to do is center align this text which says sales in millions. So that I have 3 columns here which have sales data, and I have this text sales in millions. I want to center align this. Now there are 2 ways to do this. First is to use merge and center. So I can just select these 3 cells and click on merge and center, and you can see that these 3 cells now have become one, and this text sales in million is now center aligned. But I would always recommend not to use merge and center, because there are certain problems that could arise. So for example, if your data set is merged and centered, so if these columns are merged and centered, then it is difficult for you to filter this data. In case you have this here, and if you merge and center these 3 cells, then it will not be possible for you to filter this or sort this easily. There could be some problems. So a very good alternative to this is center across selection, which you can access through format cells dialog box. So to access format cells dialog box, press Ctrl 1, and within this, in alignment, go to horizontal drop down and select center across selection. And as soon as you select this and click OK, you can see that it does the same thing. It has sales in million text centered in these 3 columns, with a minor difference that these 3 cells remain separate. These are not merged and have not become one single cell. The next step is to select this entire total sales option and give it a different shade. So I would give it a green shade, and I would also bold this, so you would know that at the bottom we have these total sales value. Another thing I want to do is, since this is the total of this entire column, I want to make the cell, the upper portion of this cell, as a double border. So to do that, I would select this entire thing, and I can do this either using these options. I have top and bottom borders, or I can again go back to control 1, and here within border I have this option to select double border and select this part, so that I would know that the top of this cell would now have a double border, and I would just click OK. And as soon as I do this, you can see that now I have a double border at the top of the cell. So now my data set is completely formatted. If you look at this data set, this is exactly the same, with a minor thing that you can also color the minimum value. Now there are different formulas to identify what is the minimum value, but in this case let's do it manually. I know that 112 is the minimum value, so I would go to the font color property and just change this to red, and also make it bold so that it is visible distinctly in this data set. Similarly, in this case I know 113 is the lowest value, so I would again repeat this, and in this case I know 139 is the lowest value. Now let me show you one thing. Since my last action that I did was making this cell bold, I can use the keyboard shortcut F4 to repeat the last action, or what I call a redo. So if I press F4, you can see that this becomes bold, because this was the last thing that I did. Now let me Control Z and show you again. I would go to this cell, I would make this red, and now if I go to 139, which is cell D4, and press F4, this again becomes red, because this repeats the last action. I would also go and make this bold, and again I would go to this cell and press F4 to bold it. So now my raw data is completely formatted. One minor thing again, you can choose to leave this as it is, or you can go to view and switch off these grid lines. So you can see that each cell has this light gray grid line or a border to it. You can switch this grid line by unchecking this option, and all your grid lines would be gone. So now you have this data set which is highly readable and very easily digestible as compared to the raw data set with which we started. One last thing that I want to cover in this video is the Format Painter tool. You can access this tool by going to the Home tab, and in the clipboard category you have this brush icon, which is the Format Painter tool. This tool is useful when you have to copy the formatting from one cell to another. So for example, if I have a cell here and I give it a yellow fill, and if I want to copy this formatting, then I can simply go to the Format Painter tool, click on it, and click on the cell where I want to copy this formatting. And as soon as I click on it, it would copy the formatting from this cell to this cell. Now I can have multiple level of formatting. So for example, here I only have a yellow fill. I can also give a border to it, and maybe if I write something here, so I'll write my name, and I would change the font color to orange. Now if I again use the Format Painter tool and copy something here, it copies this entire formatting, not only the fill but the border and font as well. So now if I type something here, then you can see that it is again in the orange color. So the best part here of Format Painter tool is that it can copy an entire set of formatting and you can apply it to another set of cells. So a very good example for this would be to show you how I can simply copy the formatting from here and apply it to raw data. So let me first select this raw data and clear all formatting. And now you can see that this is the raw data format that we initially started with. Now if I go to formatted data, select this entire range of cells, click on Format Painter, and go back to my raw data and simply click on it, select this and leave the left mouse button. It would copy the entire formatting, and you can see this is exactly the same. It has copied this entire formatting. So it is good to know a lot of formatting tools, but if you already have some formatting there in your workbook and you want to simply copy it, you can use Format Painter. Another good feature of Format Painter is that here we selected it once and then we copied it here. But if you want to copy it multiple times, so for example I want to copy this formatting multiple times in this cell, this cell and this cell, then I can simply double click on Format Painter. And when you double click on Format Painter, it is active unless you disable it. So here you can see that in my cursor I have this Format Painter icon, this brush icon, and now if I go and select this cell and this cell and this cell and these range of cells, this formatting is applied everywhere. And if I want to disable now, I can just go and simply click on it and it gets disabled. So if you double click on this, it would remain active and you can apply it to multiple cells. If you click on it only once, then you can only copy the formatting to one cell or a range of cells, but only do it once. So this is an amazing tool that you can use if you want to copy the formats. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Thank you and have a nice day.